Hello, and welcome to the Creative Venture Podcast, and this episode of the Asking Expert series, where I talk to experts in their field to help you in your life and creative career. Jennifer Kempson is a money and mindset educator with the aim of increasing wealth and prosperity for all. She's an author, podcaster, and YouTuber, guiding her over 49,000 subscribers to financial success. With a background in engineering, she's also a STEM ambassador, working a day job in IT whilst pursuing her own various side hustles. Jennifer's own experience of overcoming debt has not only opened her eyes to a path of prosperity, but also, with one of her core values being giving, she tells us why this holistic approach can improve our own wealth and happiness whilst helping others. I really believe that in order to be successful, you need to be able to manage money and have it work for you. And this episode is just as relevant for those with their own businesses as it is for individuals.
Your background or wherever you came from does not matter one bit. It's actually the value of your skills and talents. And when you become an entrepreneur or a side hustler, or you start deciding what your value is, I think it changes the game. I think it changes your mindset completely.
So nothing in this podcast constitutes a specific financial advice, so please do your own research before taking any action and seek out professional advice if you need it. Make sure you stick around to the end as well, because I've got something special lined up. But I really do hope you enjoy this episode of Asking Experts on the Creative Venture Podcast. Jennifer Kempson, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How are you doing?
This is a pleasure. I'm really super, yeah. The sun is shining in Glasgow where I'm from, hence the accent. So it's really good. Really honoured to be on the podcast.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, this is really exciting. Firstly, because, I've followed your work for a while now, and I've personally gained so much value from your content on financial literacy, but also because you have a real interest in mastering mindset, personal development, which are all topics that are absolutely at the heart of what this podcast is about, really. And also all your content is delivered with such a positive message, which is just so great. So for those who may not have seen your content before, just tell me a little bit about what you do, but also set the background of building robots, your YouTube channel, and where that all sort of starts.
I've not been asked that yet. So you introduced me. My name's Jennifer Kempson. I'm most well known for a YouTube channel in the UK, which is called Mamafurfur, and it's a strange name. We'll get to that another question, no doubt. But I basically in the UK for about 2.5 years now have been teaching people through video content about how to invest, how to budget, how to use their money smarter, a little bit about financial independence. So some of those buzzwords around FIRE and, living within your means and things like that. And the other thing that I love to talk about is success mindset. So personal development, entrepreneurship, side hustles, multiple incomes. And how I started was about 3 years ago, my husband and I, when we met, he had £24,000 worth of consumer debt. And I had never had debt before. So this was something totally new to me. And as a couple, we had no alternative, but we had to get rid of this. Like, life was not continuing with that amount of debt in that cycle. So it taught me how to manage debt, how to pay it off quicker. And as I got through that journey, I had 2 boys, but also I didn't want to just live paycheck to paycheck. And I think a lot of people are stuck in that cycle of they go to university or they go into a profession and you feel you're stuck there till you retire. And I always knew that wasn't how life was meant to be, just because somebody told me that's how it should be. So one night I remember sitting and going, there has to be a better way to manage money. And that led me in a can of worms about investing and passive incomes and Gary Vee and all these kind of people, just this big suction of a wave going down. And what kind of kickstarted me on my own journey in entrepreneurship was I couldn't find anyone in the UK who was talking about money. And I don't mean just from like a Scottish female perspective. I mean at all. It was all US YouTube videos and US blogs. And there was nothing about UK terminology. And my background, as you touched upon, I'm an engineer. So I did electronics engineer and robotics at uni. I can describe how to build underwater robots if you want, but that's another podcast. And so I'm a fixer. I like practical solutions. And I just decided I would pick up a camera and I would make those videos. So yes, fast forward 2.5 years, I've just crossed over 45,000 subscribers to my channel, which is amazing.
Well done, yeah.
Got big goals. I've got big goals for it. But yeah, so I think people resonate with me because I try to break everything down to being an educator. So make it as simple as possible because I want everyone to have great wealth in their life. I want everyone to have the choice of whether they work and things like that, or, be with the family or whatnot. So that's my passion, is to give people the tools for prosperity in their life.
Amazing. I think one of the things that was really influential for me was just that, I don't know, you just seemed like a relatable person. Do you know what I mean? I think it might be the UK thing, because a lot of the time
the Scottish thing.
But you consume a lot of content maybe from the States and stuff. You sort of get it, but these people feel so far away.
And they use different terminology as well, like what's a 401k and things over there don't exist here. And I couldn't find anyone making the UK equivalent. So that's why I just picked up the camera and started.
Yeah. I want to make this podcast for people in two camps, really. Individuals that are just dipping their toe into the water, curious about creative work, but also people that might already be in the creative industries and are looking to take their career to the next level. And I think financial literacy is so key, whether you're self-employed, running a business, or wanting to maximize your income as an employee. But one of the things that you have referenced before, and I think one of the things that people do tend to struggle with, are these limiting beliefs that, they can't ask for a raise, they can't work flexibly. And I know this is something that you've talked about in your podcast.
Yep.
With the environment and the pressures, people feel as freelancers, they might not be able to up their rates.
Absolutely. Yep.
So what do you think are some of these main limiting beliefs that are holding people back, and what can we do about them?
There's a couple in the UK, and it could be culture. It could be, and I think it's not just because, I'm Scottish. I think it's from everyone living in the UK. We tend to have this upbringing that it's rude to talk about money, and also that I think it comes from an old mindset that money's bad.
Yeah,
and obviously that's not the case. I talk about this quite a lot. Like there's the quote about, money being the root of all evil. The wording is actually the love of money is the root of all evil. People forget
totally
the start of it.
Exactly.
It's the obsession over having money. And I think, to be honest, the biggest limiting belief for a lot of people is realizing that your background or wherever you came from does not matter one bit. It's actually the value of your skills and talents. And when you become an entrepreneur or a side hustler, or you start deciding what your value is, I think it changes the game. I think it changes your mindset completely, because we're used to the mindset that you should go and have a 9-to-5 job and somebody decides your wage. The moment that you're in control, you realize there's no glass ceiling. You realize that you can I could charge £1 million an hour if I wanted, and I think it is to do with that culture of we don't talk about money. It's a bit taboo. It's also a bit rude to think that you can charge certain amounts. You've got to keep humble. And my thing is helping good people make good money. Money just amplifies what's inside your heart anyway. Whether you're poor or rich, it's just amplifying what's there. And so if you're someone making good money, you've got overflow in your life. You should be helping others. You should be doing great things. You can give up your time. You can make better choices. So yeah, I think those are the biggest blocks, which are so silly.
I think it's difficult because, people are living in those situations. Literally, like you say, it is a societal thing, especially with work, asking for raises, all this sort of stuff. For me as well, in my young age, it was, knowing people don't talk about how much people are earning. So you don't really know how much, how much should you be earning? Like no one teaches you this stuff,
Exactly.
And this is the thing. It's then down to whoever asks, and then if you do ask and you get, it's like, well, you don't tell anyone else, and there's just so many of these weird things that go on. But
it's a lack mindset. It's like, I think people treat money like there's a limited amount of pie. Like, right, if I've got a slice, you can't have a slice. That's not how it works at all. And I actually, when I was going up through the corporate world, I'm still got a day job, but I was told that you shouldn't like HR would punish you if you talked about your wage. I actually realized that there's a law that says you can talk about your money and you should talk. So it's things like that, we've been conditioned to think there's repercussions of talking about money. And it's really ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to talk about debt if we can, because I know, so many people for whom managing money is a challenge, whether it's due to poor choices or more often actually their circumstances. And I know that from your journey, you've had that mindset that you can change your circumstances.
Yep.
So what advice would you give to people that are currently struggling with debt?
The best thing to do is, well, first of all, I will say debt does not make you a bad person. So and I know that's actually, I need to say that because a lot of other financial gurus almost make it demonized.
Yeah.
Like, you are a bad person, you have to get out of debt. I just personally see debt as you made a choice to pay for something long term with a premium. So you chose to buy a house, borrow that money, but you knew there was going to be a premium on that. Now, that being said, it's all about not making those choices again, because you're actually creating deficit in your future. You're creating a way where you'll be out more money in future for the same choice. The first thing I would say is own the situation, be responsible. So phone up all the people that you owe money to, get the current amount you need to pay, what the amount is, and commit to not adding to it. So basically facing it head on. And then the rest of your focus should be working on habits that are going to drive a positive flow of money into your hands. So thinking about paying off the debt as quickly as you can. Think about side hustles. Think about extra ways you can get rid of that past debt with you, only so that you have more choices with your money and keep more, that you can do things that you love and joy about, rather than paying somebody else's wages with your money and your debt. But yeah, that's a critical thing. Debt's not a bad thing, as in it doesn't make you a bad person. It's just you made a choice in the past, and I really hope you wouldn't make it again.
So have you got any thoughts on how people can avoid debt, and specifically young people?
I think the way you avoid it is you just don't take it on at all, full stop. So when I was in, previous circumstances, I just didn't have any debt in my life because I got used to living within my means.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. That's literally what comes in. I manage so that I'm not borrowing. So if I bought a car, I would save up and then I would pay for that with cash. If you've got a credit card, I don't think there's anything wrong with credit cards, but what I do think is pay them off in full. So commit to paying it off in full. Use it as a tool for protection more than anything, rather than it's not monopoly money, it's not a gift card. And again, it's about recognizing that actually debt or things like that is just simply habits. You've overspent what you had. Know how much you've got coming in and then allocate it accordingly so that you're not overspending. And if you don't have enough money right now for life, then you have to be honest and say, well, either something's got to go, I need to get rid of Netflix, I need to get rid of the gym membership, or I need to bring in more money. Like, look at it like the health of your money overall.
Yeah. So I recently saw a video where you announced making 5 figures from passive income. So, firstly, congratulations on that, because that's really exciting. But what is passive income? Multiple sources of income, why are they important, and how can people get started with that?
Sure. So why do I think it's important? Well, we've got a prime example in 2020 that I never think we're going to forget about. Security nowadays is different from our grandparents and our parents growing up. Security meant getting a good degree and entering a job for life.
Yeah.
Okay. And our generation, and I'm slightly older than you, but we don't have that now. There's no loyalty in companies. There's no lifetime jobs really out there. And so I talk about multiple incomes, thinking about additional ways outside of your day job you can bring in money. And all it does is it gives you that extra security that if you lost one source, if it was your day job or something else, you can still put food on your table. You can still live the life. We don't want you to struggle. And so it really is all about making like a rope as tight as you can, lots of different levels, because it's more choice then with what you do with your time. The thing you touched upon was passive income.
Yeah.
So, I love passive income. And I'll break down quickly the definition. So an active income would be where you work your time for money. So that is where you do your day job. You get a salary for turning up, doing set hours. If you want passive income, that's where you make money, or your money makes money for you without you turning up. So that would be perhaps investing. So where you get a growth increase on your money, that you could live off. It can be writing books, so the books keep selling without you having to rewrite them every day. It can be podcasts where people are listening to your podcast. You record it once and then people keep listening. It can be YouTube videos. So there's lots of different ways, and it's all about where you can create something once and then multiple people can pay you even when you're sleeping. And I love passive incomes.
I think that will really resonate with a lot of people in the creative industries. And this podcast is really kind of aimed at those people that are starting out right at the beginning of their career, and then the ones that are looking to step up to that next level. And I don't know, whether it's opening an Etsy shop or, you know, for example, I myself work in the film industry as a sound recordist. You might think that is a bit difficult to find passive income streams. Yeah. But then I think it was maybe episode 3 or 4 of the podcast, I chatted to a sound recordist called Matt Price, who started amassing a following by giving sound advice to beginners on a YouTube channel. He's now running a couple of side businesses unrelated to sound with his partner. And yeah, I mean, it's possible for everyone. So I think it's really, really exciting, like exploring these options.
It mainly is like the education. So if there's some way you can share your talents, for example, you're making a podcast, could you teach people how to make podcasts in their spare time, or, you know, things like that? And really don't ever think about it being strictly about your day job for income. So think about anything you want to do, anything that would be fun. And the chances are you could probably do it from a computer, from your bedroom, any time of day, and there's a passive income.
I mean, out of interest, I mean, this is going off script a little bit, but because I know there's some school of thought about keeping hobbies as hobbies and not trying to like monetize them and make them into career type things, because then you might fall out of love with them. But for yourself, have you ever turned any hobbies into businesses or work ventures? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say YouTube's been a hobby. No, that's how it started. It was something I wasn't getting paid at the start. You know, it took me 9 months to get monetized or make any income. And it was a hobby. It was just super fun to help people, and it still is. So I think actually you should do the things that make you feel joyful and excited, because actually, is that not the sweet spot? Getting paid for doing what you love. That's what we all want, really.
So just thinking about the creative audience, and I think most people that are getting started in their creative career are more likely to be younger. So what are some of your top money management tips for people in their 20s?
The first thing I would say is start with a budget. And I know it's not a sexy word, but basically what I mean is know how much money you have coming in every month. Okay, chances are you will have some form of salary, or you can predict how much money is coming in. The next step would be actually work out your priorities with your money. So don't be just reactive. Actually say to yourself, you know, do you want to work for the next 40 years, or would you rather start to put money aside for retirement, or to retire early, or to invest? You know, think about a passive income so that you can choose not to work. The other thing is about, you know, have you got something in your budget to further your development? So your skills, your personal development, maybe courses, tutoring, mentoring. Have that in your budget too, if that's important. If you want to travel, every month put something away so that you can travel. And so really take that step back and make the choice almost before you spend any money. Get in the habit and say, well, these things are really important to me. And it could well be saving for your first home, or a marriage, or traveling the world, but actually start as soon as you can. And in particular about investing or your future incomes. My generation growing up might not even have the state pension when I'm 65 and you're 30 odd years in the line. The next generations, the best advice I can give you is think about a time where you might not be able to work for a living. Think about ways about investing, starting a pension, because the sooner you start, the better the compound interest and time. And to give you some stats, like for yourself, if you put away that sweet spot, if you're about 18 to 25 listening, if you put away about £100 every single month in an investment fund that was getting about 6 or 7% year-on-year growth, you would be a millionaire by the time you're 65. So you could actually have a huge amount of money later in your life by that tiny small sacrifice right now. The difference, if you waited 20 years till you're 35, would be nearly £1,200, £1,300 a month. So that's the difference of compound interest. So just for me, put your goals in your budget, and make sure also, we've talked about giving. I think it's so important to have that also in your budget every month. So if you know that you want to help people and have an impact, do that with your money as well, because you can do great things, but your money can also help other people do great things as well. So give to things that you support, give to, sponsor people if you feel that way inclined. If you feel, donate to the religious group that you're part of, whatever ticks the box, think about the holistic approach with your money from the start.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable because it's about starting to get people into the right mindset about money.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things I'm really passionate about is giving people this advice because it goes beyond being relevant for your career. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent or a creative entrepreneur, these skills can really, really change your life. And I'm so grateful to have discovered people like yourself, the guys from Money Unshackled, also in the UK. I know you've collaborated with them recently.
Yes, they're super fun.
Yeah, it was really great. And in my experience, really, when I wanted to get interested in, investing, for an example, I went to my high street bank and I said to them, I would like to, yeah, exactly. I was like,
good luck with that one.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, I'd like to get started with investing. They're like, wonderful. Have you got £50,000 cash ready to go? And I was like,
wait a minute. I just in my purse. Wait a minute.
Exactly, my swag bag. I was like, okay, so how do you get that 50,000? You have to start somewhere. So it started literally by getting £100 here, £200. So even if anyone's listening and thinking, oh my God, Jennifer's just said put £100 away a month, put something away.
Even a pound, you can invest from a pound.
Exactly. Literally just get started. Obviously research these platforms, but there are platforms where you can literally like round up your spare change, as it were. So there's plenty of ways of getting in. Just moving on. I know we touched on budget a little bit, and I know it is one of those things that bores people and it's not super sexy, but I think one of the things that really inspires me about your journey and your family's journey is that budgeting allows you to get more out of life and not less. Things like, as you say, a holiday, a car, or whatever it is that's important to you. And I remember listening to an episode of your podcast where, I don't know if you'll remember this, but you said if you're just walking around the town centre and you see an advert for, I don't know, like a McDonald's burger or something like that,
yes.
and you dive straight into the nearest Mackey's, if you don't have a strategy for your money, then somebody else certainly does.
I know, I love that quote, right? Yeah,
I was like, oh man, I got to write that one down. That's great.
So true.
But how important is a budget, and what sort of strategies should we be using for making sure we compartmentalize our money?
Yeah, I think that's a super interesting question. If you don't have a strategy for your time or money, somebody else has got a big budget and is making sure that they've got it. And as I say, like, money is a tool, it's an enabler. And the thing that is important to manage in your life is your time. And that's why it's all about making conscious choices, and your budget is your blueprint. Now, money's not the only thing that can enable choices in your life, I know that, but it will certainly help you a long way. It will give you opportunities to do things that you're passionate about, the talents that you've been given to share with the world. And so that's why I make it on a very micro level. Sit down and work it actually, without anyone else's influence, what is important to you. So I wouldn't run a business without some idea of what I'm going to do. I don't just turn on a YouTube channel and go, oh, wing it, it'll be fine. Even this podcast, you've probably spent hours in the background.
Oh God, yeah.
You don't just turn up. I'm reassuring you here. You just don't turn up and hope for the best. And so with our money, when we just even on some level of detail realize that we can send it out, it then comes back to us with those opportunities, with those rewards. So that's why it's not fun. I get that, but you do a budget once and you pretty much tweak it for, a number of years and it gets you there. But without that budget, my family would not be out of debt. Matt actually left the corporate world last year as a result of us managing money, but also managing time, putting effort into podcasts and YouTube and what was important with life. And we took a 50% pay cut. Like, we lost a whole income source then. But the reward in our time and quality of life was far exceeding the money then that was missing, and we've built it up. So that just shows you get rid of something and the world gives you it back, doesn't it?
Exactly. I think actually that's a really key point though, like building it up. When we talk about YouTube specifically, it's very easy for someone to like look at your story, think, okay, well, Jennifer absolutely smashed it on YouTube. Look at all this passive income. I'm going to quit my job tomorrow and I'm going to do YouTube because like, exactly. So this is the thing, like, that you touched on there, it's about doing it gradually. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that. And it's not about like quitting your job tomorrow and going straight into YouTube if that is an interest of someone. It's about building it up slowly over time.
Absolutely. The best things in life take time. Like think about your health and your well-being. You don't just do one push-up and that's you're like a bodybuilder. Exactly. It takes days and time and growth. So my journey started 2.5 years ago. I started from zero and consistently I haven't had any viral hits. I haven't had anyone give me 10,000 subscribers. It's just completely organic. But what I know is every time I show up, I'm helping more people. And a byproduct is then more people find out about you, hopefully, if you share something good. So if my strategy, I still have a day job. And for me, that balance is there that I really enjoy my day job. I really get a lot of satisfaction. It also gives some kind of stability as well, that there's always a set income. And in the life of an artist, sometimes we can be scared of taking that leap.
100%.
But I do think that actually allow time to build in consistency with your work. Even if you're a podcaster or an artist creative, you do need to be regularly having food on the table and some steady forms of income in there before you pull the plug. And Gary Vee, he doesn't say quit your job. Like he says, you hustle between the hours of 6 and 2 in the morning. Now, I don't quite believe that. I don't think you do the day job, then do that. But you should be thinking about, you need to support life right now, but you do have these gifts and talents that over time, give it a couple of years, you never know where it's going to take you. So don't quit it all. I'm not quite that, that kind of guru who's telling you to do it. But I do believe that the world will give you the opportunities you were destined for. So it might well be that you do have the viral hit, or you maybe have the painting that sells for hundreds of thousands. That was part of your journey anyway, but don't force yourself to make it happen.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, it's stepping stones and it's learning. So
Absolutely.
If the project they're working on currently is not the thing that blows up, then it might be the catalyst for the next thing.
Exactly. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have achieved that next stage without, the one preceding it. And I think that's a really positive way of framing it. If a project's going to give you skills, relationships, that kind of thing, then it's never going to be a waste of time.
Exactly.
So I'd like to jump back onto some tactical finance bits, and specifically about another one of those unsexy topics, which is pensions. And I think a lot of young people might not have considered a pension. I actually know people that are in their mid-30s that haven't even considered it. And for me, it was always one of those things that I was just like putting off. I never seemed to have, enough money that I could just put to one side for this thing that seems so far away. So should we be thinking about pensions? How important is a pension for people that haven't really thought about it before?
I think it's all about the realization that you need to be able to live when you maybe can't work for a living. Okay, so the traditional sense is it's an income source when you retire. The other way to look at it, though, is we can't predict what's in our future. Nobody can. But what if there's a time that you maybe do want to make a different choice? So you've got your 9-to-5 job or what you do right now, but what if there is a time where you're not able to, or you don't want to? Maybe you do want to stay at home with your family, male or female. Think about all the possibilities. And a pension is just a fancy word for saying, an income source that you don't have to work for, really. That's what I teach quite strongly on my channel, is about investment ISAs and lifetime ISAs. And these are all bank accounts where you can effectively build a pension before retirement age. So you've got income sources that you can get access to whenever, not just when you're 65 or the government tell you so. And so it is about choice, because I think there's a culture of people think when you retire, you can then start living. And I think actually the habit should be start to use your money so that you have choices and your time whenever, not when somebody decides. And I think a great thing to keep in mind is the state pension. If you're listening in the UK, please do not assume that there will be money waiting for you, right? I think that's a very common belief, that we just think the government's going to look after us. We are incredibly fortunate in this country. And I know it might not feel it all the time, but look at furlough and things that they've been doing in the past couple of months. Like, that's never been done before. And yet we can't rely and assume it will be done again. And I just want everyone to have money so that then it's not a worry in their life. So that's why absolutely, please, if you're listening, open up a private pension, make those workplace pension contributions and then look into an investment ISA, because you'll be set for life if you do those two skills and use them well.
You mentioned earlier that you have a full-time job and that the multiple sources of income are side gigs, YouTube, etc., which some of the audience I think is going to be able to relate to, or just straight up be self-employed. But what I'm wondering is, if pension contributions are pre-tax, the larger the contribution you make, the less tax you pay. Is that right?
Yep.
Because that sounds like something that people may want to consider.
You're not going to pay as much tax. So anything you pay into your pension is pre-tax. So that means it comes from your gross. So your wage, when they tell you your salary, when they say, 40,000 or 35,000, it's coming from that pre-tax wage. So if you weren't paying into your pension instead, you would get less money take home than the equivalent. If you're an entrepreneur as well, the same thing happens. You don't pay tax on money in to a pension. It's pre-tax. You will get tax though when you take it out at 65.
Yeah.
So that's why another option as well to keep in mind is the investment ISA. So it's a type of savings account, but basically you're using it from your post-tax money. So you've already paid tax, it's in your take-home pay, you put it in, but you'll never be taxed on that money again. So any money you make, any money you withdraw, it's got investments, it's got the magic stuff happening, multiplying it, but you don't have to get taxed on the way out, and you can get access from life. So yeah, and as self-employed, remember we have up to £40,000 per year you can put into a pension tax-free. That's a huge amount of money. So there's, and especially if your employer gives you contributions in any way, if they give you free money, like they maybe match your contributions, please jump at it. You're not having to earn that money. It's it's a little bonus from them. So please take as much of it as you can.
Yeah, and am I right in thinking that although people will start on a very minimum amount, but you can actually, having you've spoken to your manager, your employer, whatever, you can actually get them to change that to match your contributions. So I mean, that's it's like free money, guys.
No, it is. And the reason they do it is because as a corporation, they get tax breaks. The more money they put into pensions, again, they're saving on tax. So yeah, it's in your favour. And if there's any form of match contributions, my employer actually triples my contributions.
Wow,
so
amazing.
I'm all over that. That's money that's going my pension pot. So yeah, please do the due diligence and find out about it.
100%. That's amazing. So just moving on to savings, unless I suppose you're willing to tie your money up into a bank for say 2 to 5 years, it's almost impossible to gain interest that's going to beat inflation, meaning that we're basically losing money over time.
Yep.
So, for young people, for creatives, should we be saving, investing, or both?
Both. You should always be doing both. It's the habits. It's not, don't look at the maths behind it and say, well, I'm getting a better return investing or saving. You should be doing both. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. You should be aiming to have, I don't call it an emergency fund. I call it a new opportunities fund. I want you to have new exciting opportunities, not disasters. So we focus on the good. So I think everyone should have at least 1 month of savings in cash, immediate cash. If not, make it closer to 6 months, particularly important if you're working for yourself, because anything can happen. And also you might not want to work for a month or two. Give yourself the option. So always have that buffer, save up for that. The other thing is have the investing as well. So that's where you're locking away money for long term. You're building a pot of money that actually one day you could live off the investment increase every year. So a passive income source. I honestly think it's not one or the other. You do both, but the way that you do both is then in your control. So maybe you save 10% of your money, but you invest 20%, or maybe you save 20%, then you dip down. So it's completely what you feel is right. And don't worry what anyone else's opinion of it is. You do what's right for you and what feels right.
Yeah, I think this is one of the other interesting things that I wanted to start saving some money. I realized that bank interest rates weren't really doing much for me. Of course, you do need money in a bank because you need that liquidity. You need to be able
Yes,
to pull money
exactly.
out when the car breaks down, or as you say, for new opportunities. If you want to go traveling, you want to do
Exactly. I'm
something.
gonna spin it.
That's it. But yeah, I mean, for people that are interested in investing that don't really know anything about it, where do you start? Could you tell us a little bit about different platforms, index funds,
Yep.
and that sort of stuff?
Sure. Well, a couple of platforms. So obviously it's like banking. You need to use somebody to invest. You need to use an investment platform. It's the same way as opening a bank account, basically, that you can actually have accounts. But some of the easiest ways is using people like Vanguard. So Vanguard are a very, very famous, very huge provider investment platform in the UK and around the world. There's also app-based ones like Trading 212 and Free Trade. The good thing is all these people I've mentioned are covered by the FCA, so that means up to £85,000 of your money is protected. So if you're worried in that, is it dodgy? No, your money's protected like a bank. The way to actually start is research and do this. Don't just take anyone else's word for it. Research the building blocks of the stock market. So research into what index funds are, what mutual funds are, what bonds are, and what commodities are. And those are the main building blocks of how the stock market works that you can invest in. And essentially what you're doing, and you're doing this with a pension, whether you like it or not, somebody else is doing it for you, but you're buying parts of companies, you're backing them with your money. So what will happen is you will either see that company rise in value. Think about Tesla. Tesla's been going crazy, tripling, quadrupling in 2-3 months. But that's people saying, we believe in Tesla, we want to own stock. So that's where that comes from. And then the other thing is you might also get a dividend payment then. So you own stock and they actually give you parts of their profit, depending on how much stock you own. So it's a thank you, here's free money. Would you like some more money? Yes, I will. I'll have that. Thank you very much. So to start investing, it's a little bit technical, but I promise it's easy to understand. So delve into understanding how the stock market works. Find out ways to minimize your risk using index funds and mutual funds, and then just start. I promise it's hard at the start. It's scary, but it gets easier over time when you get used to it.
I think it's really interesting because when I first started talking to people about wanting to get involved in investing and started to do my own research and stuff, everyone was saying, oh, it's very risky, it's very dangerous, don't go and do that.
But you do it already. If you want a pension, you're doing
it. Exactly. This is the thing. And I think it is really important that, people are to do their own research. Just to plug Jennifer's content, Jennifer is Mamafurfur on YouTube. She's got some really, really excellent content sort of breaking down and getting people started with all of this. I had a few sort of learning curves in the beginning, so I wish, with hindsight, what I know now, right? But
yeah, exactly. But you've got to start. You've got to start somewhere. The first time you buy your first fund or you buy your first stock, you've always got the jitters. I get that, but it becomes so easy, and you know that you're riding out peaks and troughs. You're riding out the high prices and the low prices. And if you're picking sensibly, you're not doing a get rich quick scheme. The stock market is not for you if you want to make £50 in a day. It's slow and steady, just in the same way your pensions are. And honestly, it'll build your wealth over time and you'll become very wealthy.
And I'm just wondering as well about certain platforms, because I think when you get started and you don't really have that much money to invest, sometimes you're limited with what platforms you can go to. I found in the beginning. And sometimes when you're not investing a lot of money, the fees are actually quite significant for those particular platforms. So have you got any advice for people that are wanting to initially maybe just part with a few £100 or maybe £1,000?
Which is still a lot.
But yeah, is there anything to watch about fees with those?
So fees and charges will be part of investing because the investment firms that you're using need to charge you for using their services for making the buys and the sales of your stocks. A key thing would be to look for low cost index funds and low cost investment options. And that just means make sure that you're aiming for like 0.5, 0.8% charges, because effectively those charges you have to pay and they take money from your portfolio every year as a result. So those charges, without you realizing it, every single year that you're paying them is then dipping into your profits and your growth. So that's why, absolutely don't just sign up to a provider and pick anything. Find out actually actually, what are their charges? What are their fees? Because I think it's somewhere like if you have a 2% fee, it actually means that you'll lose half the value over 40 years of what it would have been. So that small fee actually has a huge difference in your profits you'll take home. So my sweet spot is definitely below about 0.8%. Absolutely keep it low, and the lower the better, to be honest.
And if anyone's unsure, again, just check out Jennifer's stuff because she's the
It's all
guru on
there,
this.
it's all there.
That's it. So, Jen, I know you touched on a little bit earlier about giving. And, when we're talking about trying to accumulate money, well, why would we want to give? What's the importance of giving?
It's a holistic approach because I feel that the only way truly you learn in life how to present your best self is when you realize how abundant and how fortunate we actually are.
Yeah.
We live in the 0.1% of the world with food on the table and a roof. That's it. There's no wars going on. There's nothing like that. And I think we struggle when we do think about that there's not enough pie to go around. And so a habit to actually change that is thinking about I have enough for me, plus I also have enough to share as well. And it changes how you think, that you actually realize how much money you have to do everything you want in your life, and also then enable somebody else to do that or to support something else. And I think it's a fundamental habit because it goes against all of our default settings in being selfish. And really, money isn't scarce. They're printing money, for goodness sake. It's completely unlimited. And an example I often give is, Jeff, what's his name, who runs Amazon.
Oh, Bezos,
I don't know if you remember people were in outcry because they're like, he's worth trillions. Why isn't he solving world hunger? And it's like, well, wait a minute. You're pointing to the one person. What are you doing? What are you, as a community, are we doing?
Yeah, and if everyone has that mindset,
we could give £1 from our paycheck every month and we could change the world. So don't just point to him. Think about it on a personal community level. And it's one of the things that I teach is to give every single month because I see the difference it's made in my own life, changing how I think about money. There's always food on our table. There's always seems to be money to give to others as well. So it's very much, I believe the world and community would be better if we all were able to see actually what we truly have and give some to others.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I think we'll go into a bit of a quick fire round now, Jen, if that's okay.
No pressure.
What are some some key habits that you feel have led to your success so far?
Being a mother, time management, I think that's been huge. I think just making priority. I also think being aware of my own weaknesses. I think like making sure that I've got foolproof plans in place that I can't fail and just being patient with myself. I think that's about it.
Excellent. Are there any money myths or things that you feel that people focus on too much that don't actually matter?
Yes, debt. So the whole thing, I think there's a culture, and I'm not going to name names. There's a very famous male guru who says that, basically this whole community is bad because they've got debt.
Yes, yeah.
It's not true. It's not true at all. So that's one of the money myths. And the other money myth is that money is in finite amount. There's not enough to go around. There's a limited supply. It's not. It's completely unlimited. And I think once we realise that we can create money by our talents and services, it just changes everything.
Yeah. What's the most valuable thing that you've learnt so far?
I think it's actually that I'm more resourceful than I realised. I think when I realised that actually within us all, we've all got every resource we need for any kind of goal, any kind of life we want. So when you tap into actually the universe potential in you, the God potential in you, all those kind of great things, that higher self, I think you realise what resources and how strong you are.
So this one's slightly changing it up a little bit, but I know that you are a STEM ambassador and you do a lot of work trying to get women into tech. And I've had some conversations with some people recently about this topic matter. So I thought I just had to drop this question in. Cool. Thinking about like female creators and women that are interested in getting into tech, what's some of the advice that you would give to them?
So I was one of 4 females in my university degree, hundreds of men and 4 females. And that didn't bother me. I thought that was quite cool. And so I would really say anyone thinking about male, female, if it feels like the right profession, don't let your gender or your age or your skin color, it doesn't matter. If you feel inspired, absolutely go into it. It's, for me, technology, I just love it. I see the difference it makes in the world. Well, look at us. This wasn't around 10 years ago to do podcasts and talk like this, Skype and things like that. So go in and just enjoy it. And it's a great industry to be part of. It's really exciting. It's always changing. And if it feels right, just go for it.
Amazing. And then my final question, if I'm to hand the stage over to you, is there anything that I haven't asked that I should have?
Anything you haven't asked? A great thing I was actually doing today, and I take a lot of time to do, is focus on quiet time for myself. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Julia Cameron and her morning pages technique. Have you ever heard of that before? From The Artist's Way. So The Artist's Way is a very famous book. It's a 12-week manual that's basically for creatives to hone in and just like kind of express their creative side if they feel blocked and things like that. So I will often do morning pages. I'll sit and brain dump. I was doing it today because it's glorious. I took some time out to plan what I'd like to create in the next year and kind of envisage myself looking back and, making it all happen. So that'd be my greatest thing is, as creatives, I think you need the space, you need the tranquility, you need to make time to be creative, to allow the inspiration to flow. So for you, if your trigger is getting out into nature or listening to music or just simply being in a peaceful surrounding, like know what your triggers are that encourage the best creative stuff out of you. And I think you have to be doing that at least once a week, because I think that really you'll find that your soul won't find as much fulfillment if you don't. There'll be bits of you that you think, I could have done that. So that's why I do. I really try and dial in to listening to my own intuition and my creative side as much as possible, and being guided, if you like, with what topics to talk about or perhaps what to create or who to help. So that's one of my particular techniques I'm very proud of.
Oh man, there's a whole other podcast here, Jennifer. I'm definitely going to have to get you back.
Have you done The Artist's Way yourself, actually?
No, I have read the book, but I haven't properly followed morning pages.
Oh, you should. It's good fun.
Yeah, well, I've literally just made a note about that now. So that's definitely going to something I'm going to have to revisit, I think.
It's very meditation. I don't know if you meditate or,
big
religion or anything
that,
like that. It's just another form of kind of internal prayer, meditating on what you're thinking. So it's very good if you're a creative type.
Yeah, I think this is great that you mentioned this, because I'm always looking for patterns in the answers of the people I've spoken to. So many of them have some sort of practice that keeps them grounded. And I think, just the way that the world is going, everything's vying for our attention. It does feel like things are a little more intense.
Yeah.
So any kind of practice that allows you to, switch off, go within yourself, is really going to help to keep you aligned to what you should be doing with your life, not just what someone else is doing and you're copying them, or what society tells us we should be doing.
Yeah,
so
doesn't matter.
Phenomenal point.
Because you'll be given talents that I won't have, and you'll be given your unique message, the way you particularly deliver it. And actually, that's what you were here for to do. So you need to go internal and make sure that you sense, because actually I find often the things that I act on that I've come to realize, they're the most successful because it's been in line with actually what I want to do. I picked up a camera to talk about money because it felt right, not because I thought there was money in it or anything like that. So keep that focus in whatever you're doing.
Amazing. And Jennifer, if people want to look you up, where can they find you online?
Oh, you can find me everywhere. Mainly YouTube. If you look for Mamafurfur, I'll be one of the first people that pops up. And then on Instagram at Mamafurfur. I've also got a book on Amazon under my name, Jennifer Kempson, A Master Money Blueprint, which is all about holistic habits. It's not going to teach you where to invest your money. It's holistic habits with money. And we've got a podcast called The Prosperity Project. So you can find us there as well and it's prosperity. So it's wealth, health, happiness, and entrepreneurship as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I've been checking out all of this stuff, so guys would really recommend the book, would really recommend the podcast and all of Jennifer's work. Jennifer Kempson, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure.
It's been good fun. Thank you for having me.
Hey there guys, So I said I had something special for the end. I'm actually giving away 3 signed copies of Jennifer's book, The Money Master Blueprint. This is a great guide for getting you in the right mindset for wealth and prosperity. And if you enjoy this podcast, I think you're really going to appreciate the fresh perspective Jennifer takes on finances. So there are 2 ways you can get your hands on a signed copy of Jennifer's book. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, rate us 5 stars and write us a review. Then DM me a screenshot via Instagram or Facebook, making sure that you're following us to be automatically entered. And if you're not an Apple user, no worries. Make sure you're following The Creative Venture on Instagram and Facebook. Then repost or share on stories your favourite episode of the podcast. Make sure that you tag The Creative Venture and you'll be automatically entered. The winners will be announced on Thursday the 3rd of December, and there's full T's and C's available on our website, thecreativeventure.co.uk. And if you want to learn a little more about Jennifer's work, I've got all her stuff linked down in the show notes. But guys, thank you so much for listening. It's always a pleasure, and I will see you on the next Creative Venture podcast.